everyone, welcome back to the channel and to another video. If you are new here, thanks for stopping by. My name is Mia, and if you're a returning subscriber, what's good, y'all? Happy New Year. It is officially 2023, and I don't know about you guys, but I am actually really excited about this year. I just feel like I really entered this year so much more focused and clear about what I want to accomplish this year. I'm not even gonna hold y'all, like 2022 was my year. I knocked so many things off my bucket list and just my goals. Like, I accomplished so many goals. I finally became a TV staff writer, which this video will be addressing in some part, but honestly I made a lot of progress, personally, professionally, and in all the ways, with my physical fitness and health and wellness and all that kind of stuff. 2022 was a good year, and for me, I just feel like it was just a really good foundation, set the tone and build the habits, and now I have the tools that I need to really go forth and really kill it in 2023. So I'm super excited about that. I hope you guys are excited about the new year as well. As you can see from the title of today's video, today we're going to be doing a Q&A, and I'm going to be telling you guys about my own personal journey of how I became a TV staff writer, or a TV writer in general. Last year, when I posted my I believe it was a day in the life vlog of me, of my very first day as a staff writer for a TV show. And I told you guys that if you had any questions, to leave them in the comment section and I would answer them in a subsequent video. And the end of the year got super duper busy, but I was like, this is a great way to start off the new year, start fresh, introduce new people to my channel, and just, get the ball rolling. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I have compiled all of your questions from that video here on my iPad. So again, y'all know the drill. If I look down, it's because I'm looking at the questions and I have a few notes. So hopefully this video isn't too long. If in the process of me editing it, I'm like, this is way too long, I might do a part 1 and a part 2. We'll see. It depends on just how much I talk answering each of you guys' questions, because you guys have quite a few questions. I'm going to jump right in, but before I do, I just want to remind you to go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Obviously, if you have any further questions after this video, feel free to leave me a comment, and if I can address it, I definitely will. If not, I'll ask someone who can give you that information. And yeah, let's just get into the rest of the video, because I'm really excited to talk about this with you guys. So the very first question that I am going to be answering is, what was your journey to becoming a writer's assistant and a staff writer? So this is a great question. They were two separate questions, but I just folded them into one, basically, how my TV journey came about. So in a nutshell, I knew that I have wanted to be a TV writer since I was a sophomore in high school. I always loved reading and writing growing up. I was obsessed with TV. And not even gonna lie, because they say in LA, people who aren't writers 9 times out of 10 wanted to be actors. And that was completely true. Like, when I was a child, I really wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be on Disney Channel. I wanted to be on Nickelodeon, all those things. And I did go to a few auditions for commercials and stuff, but my family, we didn't really keep up with any of it. So my love for the entertainment industry, outside of, being a writer and all that, it really did start with wanting to be an actor. But the older I got and, battling with self-esteem issues and body image issues, I was like, yeah, the idea of going to a casting call and them being like, no, you don't fit the bill, the idea of willingly putting myself in a position to be rejected just didn't sit well with me as a teenager, 14, 15. And I was like, but I love to write, I love to read. And all of my English teachers, even my history teachers, any papers that I had to do, they just say, you have such a great way of writing, and you should consider being a writer. They were talking about being an author, which is something that's on my creative bucket list. But I just loved TV so much that I decided when I was 15 that I wanted to be a TV writer. So with that being said, when it came time to apply for college, I knew that I wanted to apply to programs or schools that had good TV programs. I did not apply to any film schools, only because I'm a very pragmatic person, and I was like, okay, well, if I don't make it in the TV industry because it's really competitive and really hard. Plenty of people go to film school and never get a job in the industry. And, I was aware of that reality. I had done plenty of research and I just wanted to have a backup plan. So I went into college undeclared. I ended up enrolling at UCLA, go Bruins. I ended up enrolling at UCLA as an undeclared major, but ultimately when I did declare, I was an English and a psychology major. Now, the great thing about being at a school like UCLA, who is known for its film program, is that a lot of the classes that I would have taken in the film school were cross-listed with the English department. So I'm sure there are plenty of colleges that do this, but UCLA has classes that are multidisciplinary. Is that right? Multidisciplinary, I think is the way you say it. But basically, it's a class that's listed in the catalog of courses that you can take at the school that you can get credit for 2 different programs for. So the classes that quite a few of the classes that I took for my electives in my English degree were film classes that, because they were writing focused, gave me credit to my English degree, which was great because it was kind of like I was able to build my own film and TV, major within the constraints of an actual English degree, which was great. And then, like I said, I double majored in psychology, mainly because my parents were like, "You're in school, you should get 2 degrees for the price of 1." Which, when they said it, sounded better than the actual amount of work that I had to do. It was crazy. But long story short, I ended up, double majoring in psychology, which is great because understanding human behavior and why people do things and just, all of the idiosyncrasies that we have as humans helps you make better, more realistic characters. So that is the school background answer to this question. I will say, and this kind of goes with another question that I will talk about later, but this industry is very malleable. Everybody's journey is different. So you don't necessarily need to, go to school in order to be working in the TV industry. There are plenty of people who, create their own work, put it out on YouTube, shoot their own films, TV shows, web series, whatever, put it out into the internet and get discovered that way. I know that was not the path that I wanted to take, so I went to school and sort of, worked my way through the next stage of my career, which I'm about to talk about. But just keep that in mind. There are many different ways to break into this industry. So after I left school at UCLA, I got a job at a So after I left school at UCLA, I got a job at one of the top 5 talent agencies in LA, or in the entertainment industry in general, and that was William Morris Endeavor. William Morris has been around for a very long time. At the time that I joined the company, they had pretty recently become emerged with Endeavor, which was another company, and became William Morris Endeavor. I worked there as an assistant. I started in the mailroom. I was a floater in the mailroom and, delivering mail and covering desk and learning how to work agency phones. It's a whole thing. If you've seen Entourage, then, you know what the Hollywood agency life is like. And I worked there for about almost 2 years. I think at the time that I left, it was just shy of 20 months or something like that. So almost completely 2 years. And the reason why I decided to go into an agency is because I had quite a few different informational interviews that I took while I was interning my senior year of college. And they recommended that if I wasn't going to apply to grad school, film school for grad school, that going into an agency would be a great way to get the connections that you would get from a graduate film program, but also have access to enough information to learn about the industry. So I would have to say that working at the agency was really great for me because you're just at the epicenter of so much information. All of those Deadline and Variety and Hollywood Reporter announcements that you're seeing about such and such movie is, going into production, or these people are being added to the cast for this movie. 9 times out of 10, by the time it makes it to Deadline and Variety, that information is like 6 months, if not a year old. And so just the being able to like have access to all this information as it's happening within the industry, you learn a lot. I learned a lot in terms of contracts, being able to see in real time what TV writer deals and even non-scripted, reality TV deals, news deals, branded partnerships, which is helpful now that I am also a content creator. Like you get so much information working at an agency. And that actually is how I even found out about my current job. So when I was working at the agency and I knew around the time that I was ready to leave WME and finally, break out and try to start my writing career, they were announcing, the company would always send out blast anytime one of our clients did like something amazing, right? And so at the time, Lena Waithe, who is the TV creator that I work under, not directly, but like I work on one of her shows, she had just either sold or her show 20s had just got picked up or something like that. And I told my boss that I was working for at the time, I was like, he already knew that I was looking for a new job. We had a really great relationship, so I didn't have to hide that I was looking for a new job. And I literally went to him and I was like, look, this is the type of show that I want to work on. I feel like I am perfect to work in this space. I am in my 20s. The main character of the show is trying to be a TV writer like I am. At the time, I think I was like 22. Yeah, I was 22 because I turned 23 after I joined the room. At the time I was like 22. I was like, I am the target demographic for this show. Like, help me get a job on it. So he went to this, and this is crazy how like everything works within the industry. He went to the agent who repped, one of the agents who repped Lena Waithe, gave her my information and like put in a good word for me. That agent went to the agents who represented the actual showrunner of the show, because the creator of the show doesn't always run the show on a day-to-day basis. So Lena's agent went to the agents of the showrunner and said, hey, we want to put this person in for, the recommendation. So him and Greg got my information and they, did the whole resume, did the interview thing. And they were like, oh, I'm sorry. Long story short, I didn't get the job on the shot, I didn't get the shot on the 20s. But, I asked them like, hey, can you give me tips on how I could better, prepare for my next, job interview, or like any feedback so I can, just make, changes and be a stronger candidate for another position. And they were like, we have no notes, just give me a second. This was like a Thursday or a Friday night. Come Monday morning, they came back to me and were like, hey, you were great. We loved you. Like I said, we had no notes. We thought you were amazing. The position for 20s is already filled, but would you want to work on The Chi? And that's pretty much how I worked as got my job that I'm currently still with at The Chi. So I've been with The Chi for quite a few years now. Since 2019, I started on season 3 as the writer's PA, which is basically a glorified intern, getting coffee, filling, supply orders, and getting lunch, all that kind of stuff. I worked as the writer's assistant the next season showrunner's assistant first. I worked as a showrunner's assistant season 4, and then season 5, I was the writer's assistant last season. And now this season, I got promoted and I'm officially a TV writer. I am a staff writer. So it's been quite a journey. Like I've been chugging along for quite a while. But it's very satisfying to be able to say officially that I am a TV writer. So yeah, I know that was pretty lengthy. I'm probably going to try to cut that down as much as possible, but that is the answer to the first question that we got of like, what was my journey to being a writer's assistant and a staff writer? That was my overall journey. Moving on to the next question, which is, what are the hours like when working in a writer's room? Is it 9 to 5, Monday through Friday? So the answer to this question is going to vary depending on the type of writer's room, the show that you're working on, the showrunner that you're working for. Every room is different. There is no one, formula for writer's rooms. Typically, they are in person, but obviously with COVID, pretty much all of the rooms went virtual. I do know that there are some rooms that are now meeting back in person again. However, on the Shy, we have not gone back into physical writers' rooms, so we meet every day on Zoom. And our work hours are pretty consistent. We start around 10:30, 10:40 in the morning, and we work through the day and get off around somewhere between 4:30, sometimes 5 if we're up against a deadline. And we get an hour lunch, which is great because I know in this industry, when it comes to writers' rooms, sometimes you get a lunch and it's only 30 minutes. Sometimes you don't get a lunch at all and you guys are working all the way through. But the showrunner that I work for is really great about giving people time because you can't do your best work when you're burnt out. So we do benefit from having a kind showrunner, and we typically get an hour lunch every single day. To answer the last part of the question, we work Monday through Friday. There are some shows where you will be asked to work over the weekend, but for the most part, we don't meet on Zoom over the weekends. If you have to work over the weekend, it's probably because you are out on outline or out on script and it needs to be turned around at the top of the next week. We don't typically, outside of that, we don't work on the weekends. So yeah, that's the answer to that question. Like I said, I can only talk about my personal experience. I've only been in one writer's room. I have been with the Shy for, 4 seasons at this point. And we have had this schedule since 2019 when I started. Even when we were in person, we worked from about 10:30 until 4-ish in the afternoon. So yeah, like I said, there are other rooms where that's not exactly the case. How many writing samples do you recommend having in a portfolio to break into the industry? This is a really good question. And I would say at the very least, you need to have one good script. So obviously the more you have, the better. But realistically speaking, when you are going up for jobs, especially when you are applying for like writer's PA, showrunner's assistant, writer's assistant, you need to have at least one script on hand. I will say, if you are applying for a writer's PA jobs, have the script ready in case they ask for it. But 9 times out of 10, because like I said, a writer's PA job is sort of like a glorified intern. You're just getting coffees and luncheon and filling supply orders. They may not ask you for a script. Don't feel bad or don't feel any type of way about that. That's just, the real of the industry. So yeah, they may not ask you if you are applying for a writer's PA job, but if you are or applying for a showrunner's assistant position, or a or a writer's assistant position, you definitely need to have at least one script. Preferably, I would recommend having one script that gives an example of what you can do per genre or format that you're interested in. So if you only want to work in 30-minute, half-hour comedies, then that's fine. You can have, 1 to 2 pilots that are just your, half-hour comedy pilots. But if you want to work on multiple types of shows, like you want to work on half-hour comedies and you also want to work on 1-hour dramas, then I would recommend having one pilot that shows your writing capability for both formats, because they're vastly different scripts, and how you write for a half-hour comedy is going to be different than how you write for a 1-hour drama. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, I'm sure someone is probably going to ask, oh, I have a film script. Can I use that? To which my answer is going to be, it depends. So I would highly recommend having a TV script available, because if you only have a film script, executives, showrunners, they don't necessarily like to read a lot of pages if they don't have to. I know a lot of showrunners only read like a couple pages and they make their decision about whether or not to hire someone within like the first few pages of the script. So the longer your script is to tell the actual story, they may not want to get to the end to find out. So I just think that if you're going up for a TV job, then you need to have a TV script. If the only thing you have is your film script, and definitely something is better than nothing, but I would highly recommend that you have a TV script ready to go. Okay, here's the next question. This is a really good question. Since you're working with a lot of different people that have different interests and personalities, how do y'all come to an agreement about what to add or the content to use in a script? This is a really great question. So entertainment in general is a collaborative industry, okay? You cannot get from point A to point B. You cannot get from script to screen without working with people. And if you don't like working with people and being a team player, I'm telling you now, this is not the industry for you, okay? Like, whether you write your own script, if you're the writer, great. But eventually, you're going to have to pass that script along to the director. Even if you're not the director, even if you are the director, because maybe you're a writer-director, that's great. You're still going to have to collaborate with the cast that you hire to play your characters. You're going to have to collaborate with the DP who is going to shoot your piece of work. You're going to have to collaborate with the editors who are going to, at every stage of creation, you're going to have to work and collaborate with someone. So if you have a hard time doing that now, you're going to be in for a treat. And mind you, this question is very correct. When you are working in a writer's room, you are dealing with people who are coming from all different types of walks of life, who will probably more than likely be a different race than you, who will probably be a different socioeconomic status, who will be a different age from you. Like, there are just so many different factors that come into play when you are working with your coworkers in a writer's room. And a lot of times that can be a good thing and a bad thing. So it's a good thing because that just means that when you pitch story, you're usually pitching story based on your own lived experience. So if you have more variety of people in the room, then you can tell a greater variety of stories because you have access to more variety. But it can be a bad thing when people be peopling and don't know how to manage their emotions, don't know how to be respectful and kind to others, and have inflated egos, or there's just so many different things that can go awry in a writer's room. But specifically in answering this question, which deals specifically with how do you come to terms with how do you guys agree on what goes into a script, I will say again, I have only worked on The Chi, so that is the only experience that I can give, information on. And how we typically work is at the beginning of the season, we have a creator that we answer to. So Lena, our creator, tells us, these are some initial thoughts that I have about the season. These are sort of, loosely some things I would want for each character. And then as a room, we take those ideas and we expound upon them. So the first couple of weeks in the room is a process that is known in the industry as blue skying, which is basically a fancy way of saying brainstorming, coming up with what is the overall arc of the season. What are the characters moving from? The way we left them in season 3, what changes are they going to make by the time we get to the end of this season? And so generally those decisions are made as a collective, and it's, I guess the good way to say would probably be majority rules, but it's not like an official vote. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't, we don't really sit around and someone pitches something and we'd be like, ooh, how many people like this? And you raise your hand. That might be how other shows work, but that's not how we work on our show. It's just sort of an unspoken, someone will pitch something. If the majority of the room, agrees with it, then that's what we decide to do. And then if they don't, then we sort of just meander and say, that was a great pitch. At all times, we are respectful. We say, oh, that's a great pitch. And off of that, I think we could also, do this. You build on. It's a very yes and environment as opposed to no, that sucks. Because again, that's just rude. Like, nobody wants to work with somebody like that. When it comes to individual scripts, assuming that you are working on a show where the showrunner is not writing all of the episodes and like each individual writer gets to write their own episode, then you would have a situation where you are able to put into the script your own voice or whatever. So when you go off and you write your outline, and you, after we've all broken down what is going to happen in each episode, each writer is assigned an episode, and then you go off and you write the outline, and that is your voice. Like, you write it by yourself. We don't group write on this show. There are some shows where it's like teams of writers, but we don't group write here. Unless somebody is like co-writing an episode. But for the most part, like, once you get your episode, you are the person that is writing it, which is, great, because nobody gets, you get into this industry and you get into this job because you like to write and you want to tell stories. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. It's a little hard to explain without you having been in a room, but I hope this is helpful. Like I said, it's kind of just like a majority rules. Even in the midst of people's different personalities, we kind of make sure that we're all being respectful. And from there, we kind of mutually, collectively agree what goes into the story and what doesn't. And then when it comes time to write your script on your own, you are able to then make decisions about, dialogue. You are able to flesh out a scene more based on your own experiences and like what you would like to see. You get to take some creative liberties when it comes to your individual script, for sure. And that's the fun part of writing, because it's like, we just making stuff up, and somehow it ends up on y'all's TV screen. It honestly, that is what excites me the most about this job, is that I'm like, we literally sat in the room like 6 months ago and made stuff up, and now 6 months later, y'all are watching it on TV. It's insane. I'm fascinated every time. So this next question is, do you have to be an assistant before you become a staff writer? And like I said earlier, it depends. Now, 9 times out of 10, the barrier of entry is working as an assistant in some form, whether that is a writer's PA, which is just writer's production assistant. That's what PA stands for. Writer's assistant, which means you are taking all of the notes, or showrunner's assistant, which means you are directly responsible for answering to the showrunner, facilitating calls, meetings with the studio and the network, and cast and the department heads, all those different things. Now, there are some people, because even within our writer's room and previous writers who have been here, who have never been an assistant, who worked in a different industry and were able to get a job in this industry based on their previous work. So like on our show, we had playwrights who worked obviously as playwrights. They've had, works produced. Our show is based in Chicago. So the people that I'm talking about are from Chicago. They were Chicago playwrights who had scripts from their plays, and they were able to use those scripts in order to land them a job in this industry. So this kind of also ties back into my advice earlier, talking about how many scripts you should have. Like I said, I highly recommend having TV scripts, but there are some cases where having a different form of a script can work in your favor. So long story short, no, you don't have to be an assistant, but 9 times out of 10, you will probably have to fulfill some assistant role before getting hired as a staff writer. Obviously, there are exceptions to this rule, obviously with nepotism, or just like if you have really good connections and you know someone personally who is a showrunner or a creator and is willing to just put you on their show, then, exceptions do occur, but most of the time you will start as an assistant. Okay, so we have a few questions left, so I'm going to try to get through them relatively quickly so we can go ahead and get out of here. So the next question is, when you have time off between seasons, do you still get paid? So the short answer to that question is no. When you are on hiatus, you do not get paid from the studio or a network. When you work in this industry, you are basically agreeing to be a contract worker. So you will have a work contract that you sign at the beginning of the season with HR, and you will get paid for whatever that contract is, whether it be 24 weeks, 20 weeks, however length of the show that you're working on, however long that writer's room will be, that is how long you will get paid. So it's really important that you manage your money while you are getting paid and saving enough so that you will be able to pay your bills for those months where you guys are off work. So no, you don't get paid when you are not working. But obviously, because you're a contract worker, you are technically laid off at the end of your contract, so you can file for unemployment from your state, and that should be able to help you cover a few of your bills. But we all know unemployment does not cover a lot, and it's not a lot of money. So it's really important that you manage your finances and you save enough money to cover you for the months that you are not working. Or you can always just go work on another show, depending on how long you guys will be on hiatus. On the Shy, we are usually only working for about 7 months maybe out of the year. And then obviously, if I can go work on another TV show if I want to. Personally, I haven't worked on other shows, mainly because I like to use that time to travel and work on other projects, use that time to write my own projects. So I'm really diligent about saving my money when I am working on the show, so that I will be able to have the freedom to not work for those other 6 months or whatever, however long the gap is. Next question. Do you feel like you have to live in LA to be successful in the industry? As much as I want to say no, I can't. Working in LA is definitely going to help you when it comes to having access to the rooms. Now that COVID it hasn't gone away, but it's at a certain level of manageability where we are starting to see a lot of writers' rooms be in person again. So that is going to be something that is going to affect you when it comes to getting a job. If the room is not virtual, then you can't get a job in the room and work via Zoom. So being in LA, if the writer's room that you want to work on is located here, is definitely going to help you. Living in LA is also helpful in terms of networking because there are a lot of different events that you can attend. A lot of people in the industry live in LA, so you can be at a random coffee shop writing and run into another writer. Like, there's a joke that says, like, if you walk into a coffee shop, about 85% of the people in there are working on a script. And I mean, that's just the nature of LA. I will say that I think it depends on what exactly you want to do. If you want to be a writer, I do think that being in LA is going to be helpful. If you want to work on the production side of things, then you have a little bit more freedom because there are film and TV productions that happen in other places. So you can be working on a show that shoots in New York. You can be working on a show that shoots in, Atlanta. Like I said, The Shy, we work, even though we are virtual, when we were in person, the writer's room was in LA. However, the show itself, like the actual production set, is based in Chicago. So when we are filming, the people who work on the set, whether it's the grips and the DPs and the costume designers, all of those people are in Chicago. So I will say that it depends on what side of the industry you want to be in, because if you want to work in production, you can find production jobs in other states. But I do think that specifically if you want to be a writer, being in LA is definitely going to be helpful. I am going to wrap up the video with this last question, which is, what do you feel are the necessary steps to take for someone wanting to become a staff writer? So if you want to be a staff writer, the few things, like I said, everything about this industry is a gamble, but I will recommend that you have a script that you like, that you think is pretty strong. Get second opinions on it, get advice on it, give it to friends, give it to people in the industry. If you know people in the industry already, give it to them, ask them for feedback. Be respectful. Don't send out any unsolicited scripts. Don't email random people just asking them to read a script. That's not really respectful. That's not something that's typically done in the industry. And if you send your script to like an agent or a manager unsolicited, they may or may not read it. But if you have a personal connection with somebody, definitely send them your script and ask them to read it. And keep, always be working on something, always be rewriting, because writing is a skill and you want to practice that skill and strengthen it as much as possible. So that's definitely one thing that I can say. I would say to watch a lot of TV, read a lot of scripts, because you want to see what's working and what's not. And when you're watching TV and you're watching films, I would urge you to not be a passive watcher, but to watch with intention and watch to learn. So what I mean by that is honestly, my friends and family can't stand watching TV with me sometimes because it's hard to turn my writer brain off. So my parents, especially my dad, he says that he knew I was going to be a TV writer because back in the day when Grey's Anatomy and Scandal first came out, I was like in high school or whatever when it happened. We used to watch like some episodes. We used to watch the shows like as a family. And I would always guess what was going to happen in the episode before it happened. And specifically with Scandal, we would be watching, and I wasn't doing it to be like, to be annoying. But I just recognized the patterns and I understood how to do stuff as a writer pretty early. So we would be watching it, and it's ABC, it's network TV, so there's a commercial break. And so during the commercial break, I would be like, pretty sure XYZ is about to happen by the end of this episode. And lo and behold, we would watch the rest of the episode and it would happen exactly as I said it. And my dad and then my mom would be like, how did you know that? And I'm just like, I can read between the lines. It's a skill that I have been practicing for a very long time, and that I still do to this day. So a lot of times I'll be watching a TV show and a film, and I think it's helpful in the beginning to write it down on a piece of paper. I'm at the point now where I don't need a pen and paper to see how everything works. But in the beginning, I think it's helpful for you to watch TV shows, watch films that you like, and write down what you see happening, beat it out, and use that as practice and use that as a template in order to apply it to your own TV pilots and film scripts, because this industry is very formulaic. There is a structure that you need to abide by in order to be taken seriously and just to fit within the constructs of the industry. And so the more TV that you watch and the more movies that you watch, you'll be able to start seeing the patterns and start recognizing the rhythm. You'll be able to see whether it's a 3-act structure, beginning. I mean, all stories should have a beginning, middle, and end. If you are writing a script that doesn't have a beginning, middle, and end, rewrite it. I'm not gonna tell you to throw it away because it could be a good idea, but rewrite it. Make sure you have a beginning, middle, and end. But in terms of like TV structure specifically, the more TV that you watch, the more you'll be able to see how things flow. So that's definitely another step that I think it's necessary to take to becoming a staff writer. And then just apply, make connections with as many people as you can, because in this industry, it really is about who you know. I, like I said, was able to get my job as a writer's PA because I had the connection from my boss at the agency. They had connections with other agents within the agency who then turned around, made recommendations on my behalf to executives at Hillman Grad Productions, and that's essentially how I got my job. So make connections, go to networking mixers, try to connect with people on Instagram if you think they're going to be responsive or open to connecting. LinkedIn is valuable. And also just try to find Facebook groups that are going to be really helpful. Once you become an assistant, there are assistant groups on Facebook where people post job postings. Because I will say the difficult thing about this industry is that there is no job board for it, right? 9 times out of 10, you're not going to see a writer's assistant position posted on LinkedIn. The way this industry works is it really is about like who you know and people individually sending you out job opportunities. So I have a friend who will, if I'm like not working on the show, if we're on hiatus, will constantly send me like, hey, such and such, like this show is looking for a writer's assistant. Are you interested? I can either say yes, I can say no, I can send them my resume, and then that's how it goes. So I would definitely say networking as much as possible is going to be really helpful. In terms of barrier of entry, you can go the whole writing program route. I think NBC has a program. I think ABC has a program. All of these different studios and networks have programs. But in terms of actually finding the staff writer roles, your connections are going to be really helpful in you finding those roles. I hope this video was helpful and answered a lot of you guys' questions. If not, if you need me to do a follow-up video answering specific questions, feel free to leave comments in the comment section. If there's anything you want me to expound upon further, go ahead and leave me a comment. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. And I am going to be doing more TV related content on my channel, because while I don't have the capacity to read people's scripts and give feedback, I do recognize that by virtue of me being in this industry, I have access to information that would be super helpful for people trying to get into this industry. So I have a few different ideas on future series where I can help spread the information that I have and give it to others. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe, because I may or may not be bringing, writers that I know to the channel to answer questions. So if you're interested in that, I'm just saying you might want to subscribe. But yeah, other than that, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.